Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names of kicking candy ass. Latin Lily Cover here with you on Grande's Graveyard. How we doing tonight, everybody, ladies and gents? I hope we're doing extra spooky because tonight we're getting spooky over here, baby. We're rocking on with some Frankenstein films. Oh yeah, Ty Junebug was here before I even went live. I'm a little late. I'm sorry. This goddamn Wi-Fi does not want to comply with me for whatever reason. So I unplugged and replugged to the router. So hopefully it can get through the fucking hour. I don't know, but I would cross everything you got. So hopefully that happens. Early bird catches the worm. You damn right. You damn right. The Master of Fear is here. What's going on, good brother Devin? How are you? Rocky's like, I am late. I am late to the show. I'm sorry. I've got a nice, I don't know, like drink situation here. I figured since we're doing Frankenstein and Frankenstein's skin is green, I'm rocking a green tea. I'm rocking my favorite drink in the whole wide world, little green Mountain Dew. They still got the bow on this from like Christmas. I don't know. I guess this didn't sell too well around Christmas time. I don't know, but we're gonna pop that son of a bitch open. Neon Black Reviews is here, dude. It's been a long time since you've been on the live chat, dude. I'm so glad to see your name in there. Hope all is well. Neon Black Reviews. He just picked up some badass. Well, this was a few weeks ago, but badass Arrow titles. Man, he had a crazy haul, but really some good stuff. So I don't know. Have you do you have any like plans for your channel coming up? If so, let me know. I'd like to know. Hayden Vavra's in the house. What's going on, good brother? Hello, dude. Hope you're having a good day too, man. It was fun. We were catching up in the chat with Steve. Steve from Dead Pit. He was just doing like Jallo discussion. We talked all things Masters of Horror, Video Nasties, Scream Queens, all that good shit, man. Steve's a great guy. Chris V is in the house. Chris V was also just there too. I think he's new to my channel. So Chris V, welcome to my graveyard where the gates are always open to any and everybody. Rock on, good brother. Glad you're checking out the show tonight. Thank you for joining. And great you're reviewing classic horror movies, my genre of movies, the golden age of Hollywood. Honestly, the type of Hollywood we need to go back to. Yeah, Ty, you know, it's funny. When I had you in mind when I was thinking about doing these movies here, the Frankenstein movies, I originally wanted to do all 8, but to be honest, 8 movies in 7 days, that's really tough. And I just did a block where I watched the 6 aquatic horror films. So I was like, you know what, with Frankenstein, I'd rather just start with the original trilogy. Maybe I'll do the other 5 for another episode, another day. Not that I haven't seen them. The only one I do not believe I've seen House of Frankenstein. Of these 8, that's the only one I haven't seen. I remember House of Dracula being actually pretty fucking poor. But this is a really cool set, by the way, that Universal put out. It's the Frankenstein 8-film complete set Legacy on Blu-ray. Pretty sweet little dish right here. It's not. I do hate when they do this and they put the 2 movies on one disc or whatever, but at least they have the big ones by themselves. They have, of course, Frankenstein, the original movie there. Then, of course, Bride. And then what they did was they put Sun and Ghost on a disc, which those 2 go together. So I guess it makes sense. This I thought was really fucking cheap. They put 3 on the 3rd disc. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, which I honestly remember House of Dracula being the shittiest of these 7 I've seen. And then Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein, which I actually really fucking like. I think that's a great little comedy, especially if you're a big Abbott and Costello guy like me. But yeah, no, I know Ty is a big golden era Hollywood guy, and he probably knows so much more than I could ever, imagine to know. But I definitely did my research, so I've come to play, Mr. Junebug, and I'm glad that you're here live in the cover with me. Masters of Horror, that almost was my channel. That's true. That's right. I remember you telling me that years ago on the channel. Oh man, I forget which video I was doing, but I remember you telling me you were looking for channel names and you thought of that one. But I like the Master of Fear too. I like to say Master of Fear is here. I don't know. It has a nice ring to it. Everyone's saying hi to each other. It's weird. Whenever I think Frankenstein, I think Gunther from Hoover's The Funhouse. That's the beauty of Frankenstein when I think about it. Like, sure, I'm going to go in depth on these 3 movies, and honestly, all 3 of these I really like. I can give you a forewarning here, so this is going to be a pretty positive episode of the show. I gotta say that it's amazing how much stuff you think of when you think Frankenstein. Like the minute you think Frankenstein, there's so many different things come to your head. For some reason, I don't know why. I love this movie, but like I haven't seen it in a long time. Anybody remember Flesh for Frankenstein with fucking Udo Kier and the epic line, "To no death, Otto, you have to fuck life in the gallbladder." One of my favorite lines in the history of cinema, said by none other than Mr. Udo Kier, Flesh for Frankenstein. I believe it was also billed as Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, which it's nothing to do with Andy Warhol. It's just funny they put his name on the fucking movie. There's so many. It's weird. I think of Big Daddy. I remember the little kid in Big Daddy. He wanted to be called Frankenstein. It's such a big thing. Of course, the fun house, because originally the killer in that, the alien creature thing, he has a Frankenstein mask on. In a lot of ways, Toby Hooper's The Funhouse feels like an old school Universal monster movie at least at the beginning, and then it kind of falls into what 80s slashers would be towards the latter half. And it's a really colorful film too. The Funhouse is a really a different animal. I don't even know if you could consider it a straight up slasher, because there's not that much slashing until the end. And it's the first, like, I would say hour of it, it's more like style. I don't know. That's a great film, man. I know Ty, not Ty, Don Nice. He's a diehard fan of that. I would love to get him on here maybe for a commentary one night. Oh, you did research up. Well, I did my research on these three as much as I could. I like to always do show prep. You know me, but I'm sure you know more. I know Deborah's the master of fear, but you're the master of the golden era for sure. Chris saying hi. I put an Easter egg to your channel, my little stop motion Lego video Grande. Oh, really? Did you? That's badass, man. That's fucking really cool. And Neon Black Review saying hi to everybody. So we're gonna pop this son of a bitch open. I don't know what y'all are drinking tonight. If you want to let me know what y'all are drinking, I had to do green. Actually, it's crazy. I don't have any Frankenstein merch, but damn, I should really get one. My buddy I used to work with, his name was actually Frankie. He had a fucking shirt that said Big Frank on it. It was the big Boris Karloff head, over the poster of the 31 film, and he would wear that all the time because his name was Frank. And I always thought that was just a badass. Like, anybody named Frank should have Frankenstein merch. I should have Frankenstein merch too, even though my name's not Frank. But pour a nice little. I've got a clear little glass here, baby. I'm gonna put the lid on this. This is ice cold, dude, man. This is gonna be fucking fire. So before we get into everything, I'd like to say cheers to everybody on a Thursday night, Friday tomorrow, TGIF, and then the weekend, good brother. Cheers to y'all. Oh man, you can't beat OG Mountain Dew. I mean, I'm a huge Code Red guy. Code Red's probably my favorite. But man, every now and again, when you want the original, I'm just a huge fan of the original. I don't know. If they sell the 2 liters of Code Red by anybody, but they don't by me. They only have this, and occasionally, you'll find a 2 liter of Voltage. But you will never ever find a 2 liter of Code Red. You literally have to drive 100 miles from where I'm at to find a 2 liter of Code Red. They have the tiny little bottles, so that's the ones that kind of suffice for me. Oh man, that's some good stuff. That is some good stuff. What does Ty Junebug say? Master of the Golden Era, I'd say Master of Cinema, just because I've spent my entire life studying the art of film. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any. I know that this is your favorite era, and you are the master, so I figured you'd always be the best at knowing what you love the most, right? I try to stay away from Mountain Dew. I'll stick to Dr. Pepper, and I feel like, oh yeah, that's right. You were saying last show, Jack Daniels and Dr. Pepper, man. I'm a huge Dr. Pepper guy myself. Love it. Soda hasn't started talking to me yet, but I'm craving it. Oh shit, I bet you I don't know, man. I swear to you, I heard a Stewart's root beer call my name when I tried to quit soda. I heard that son of a bitch. I was walking in the aisle in Stu Leonard's, and I heard it go Grande. Turned and I was like, what the fuck? And there was nobody there except for this fucking Stewart's bottle of root beer. And I was like, that's what just called me. So I ran the fuck out of there. Quitting soda was pretty impressive for me, man. I went 4 months quit soda. Pretty damn impressive if I say so myself. But I don't know. I do love it. It's kind of my thing. I'm a big soda guy. And especially for a guy that doesn't drink alcohol. I don't know. I just kind of live it up with the soda. But without further ado, we can jump right in to the monster madness, if you will. We can jump right into the time machine. I mean, we've got to go way back in time for this one. You thought it was me talking about old movies when I talk about movies from the 1981. That's 40 years ago. That's an old damn movie. But when you think about this is truly an old goddamn movie. We're going back in the time machine 90 years to 1931. Tonight on the Graveyard, we are talking about none other than the original. I guess I'll just hold this up because I don't really have separate editions of these. But we are talking about James Whale's Frankenstein from 1931. Of course, everybody always mentions, of course, first the novel by Mary Shelley, written in the early 1800s, and just the fascination of that to me is always kind of just made my mind run wild personally, because you think about it, what is the most important or most talked about horror novella of all time? There's plenty, but none that have the rep, I don't think, of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And what makes my mind run wild about it is the fact that one of the most notorious horror novels, scary quote unquote novels, was written by an 18-year-old girl. And I just, isn't that fascinating? Like, it wasn't this fucking weird character on the seventh floor of an apartment building that had no fucking friends, or like an introvert like H.P. Lovecraft was. This was a 18-year-old girl that wrote one of the most important novels in the history of the genre, and thus resulted in one of the biggest, most important movies in the history of the horror genre, in this film Frankenstein right here from 1931. I just, it's just one of those things that always kind of just blew my mind. And James Whale would actually go on to agree with me in Bride of Frankenstein. I can mention that when I get there, but I guess I could read a short plot synopsis. Granted, my Wi-Fi now is saying it's not good again, so I don't know. I could read a brief plot synopsis. Dr. Frankenstein dares to tamper with life and death by creating human monster out of lifeless body parts. Ooh, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Frankenstein. I watched this the other night again. I've watched this numerous times over the years. I think the original Frankenstein is, when you're thinking gothic horror, when you're thinking great gothic horror, I don't think you can really get that much better than the original Frankenstein from 1930. I know technically not the original. I'm sorry, the Universal monster movie from the original. See, Ty, I do know there was a Frankenstein from 1910 that has no sound. That was technically the original Frankenstein film, but when I'm talking mainstream here, the original of the Universal Monster Series Frankenstein movies, I look no further than this one, because this is just gothic horror at its absolute finest, in my humble opinion. Right from the get go, the opening in the graveyard of these people burying a body, and the fact that James Whale said, hey, we'll put a microphone right inside the coffin so you can literally hear the dirt hitting the fucking coffin, the gravel hitting the coffin, just right off the bat creates an epic atmosphere. And man, you wouldn't think a movie 90 years old would look good in Blu-ray high def, but this is one of those movies that does look phenomenal in Blu-ray high def. Not so much the sequels like Son of Frankenstein on that I've watched on Blue. Those transfers are actually pretty fucking poor, and I'll get to that when I talk about Son of Frankenstein. But Frankenstein and Bride, top-notch transfers. I mean, gorgeous transfers. And this is, of course, the graveyard scene where we're introduced to Colin Clive, who plays Henry Frankenstein, and of course his assistant Victor Moritz, played by John Bowles. And what's funny is, in the novel, it was not Henry Frankenstein, it was Victor Frankenstein. And in the movie, they just switched the name. So his friend was named Henry in the novel. Of course, now it's Henry Frankenstein, and then Victor Moritz is the sidekick. Thought that was funny. They were just like, oh, we like the names. Let's just fucking switch it up to say we changed something, I guess. But in a lot of ways, this is very, very different from the book. I mean, in the book, there was no hunchback assistant Victor, there wasn't. And a lot of people mistake Victor for being Ygor, which I always thought was pretty interesting, because, of course, he's the hunchback. He walks, kind of like the character does in Young Frankenstein. But Ygor doesn't show up until Son of Frankenstein, which is going to be played by Bela Lugosi. In my opinion, his greatest performance of all time, even better than all the roles and times he played Dracula. I love him as Ygor in Son of Frankenstein. I just think he does a wonderful job. But I want to start right off with Colin Clive, because he's, in my humble opinion, the reason why this movie works, because he just brings such an energy to the role of Dr. Frankenstein. And like, that's the funny thing, when you think Frankenstein, everybody thinks the monster, but really it's the name of the doctor. That's the franchise. It's the name of the doctor that is the name on the franchise. It's pretty wild, like, I just always found that was really funny too. But it's almost like Frankenstein, the monster, is almost taken on the name of its own, being Frankenstein now. Like, it's very weird. They even mention it as like a joke in the Son of Frankenstein. But I just think the atmosphere right off the bat of this movie is just incredible. And Colin Clive, man, his energy, his raw tenacity in this performance is just, it just really blows me away. Like, personally, I think why like telling the whole story of him, and everybody doubts him, and everybody doubts that he can create, life out of all this dead tissue and corpses that he's stealing. And he also sends Victor to steal a brain from this classroom. Of course, he grabs the abnormal brain, and thus, we put an abnormal brain in a fucking giant 7-foot body. Victor screwed up, let's just say. And I just love that his wife isn't a fan of this, his friends aren't a fan of this, and they tell him, they're like, listen, Henry, this is nuts. Don't do this. They even confront him the night he wants to do it. He's got the body laid out. He wants to pull the lever up to the top of his castle and have lightning struck the body to bring it to life and give it the reanimation. And his wife comes in. She's like, Victor, please. I mean, Henry, please understand that this is just not normal. This is something unholy about this. Don't do this. And I just love Colin Clive playing the character that has to, take all this shit, take all this doubt, but he never doubts himself. He always believes in the dream of reanimating a corpse. And Frankenstein, in a lot of ways, Frankenstein's monster is his child in a lot of ways. And I always thought that was just such an interesting element about this movie. Everybody remembers the monster. Everybody remembers the scene by the lakeside with the little girl, and we'll get there. But to me, it's in a lot of ways the horror of a man that begs to dream, that begs to differ, but his dreams ultimately crushed and crumble down around him. In a lot of ways, the dream dies harder than the man in the original Frankenstein. I know that the character doesn't die per se in the film, even though in the sequel, it's almost like, it's funny, like you think he does die in this film, but they have this weird tacked on ending where it's like, oh, he's okay, like he survived. Like, it's very tacked on, but I mean, that's the horror genre. I mean, watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. If Ken Foree didn't die before then, I don't know, he just kind of randomly he was okay. That's the genre, man. It's been like that even since 1931, 90 years ago. They were doing shit like that. So I don't know, but I really always loved that motif of the dream dying harder than the man itself, and I thought that was just such great horror psychology, if you will. James Whale, even though I know he was not a diehard horror fan, his psychology is off the charts, especially in Bride of Frankenstein. I think that's the movie where the psychology it reaches all-time heights in that film. But that's one thing about this movie that I feel nobody really ever mentions. They always remember the iconic, and there's so many iconic things in this movie to remember. I understand how it can get lost in the shuffle, but I don't know. I just always liked that. And I always liked Colin Clive's performance because he just brings such an energy to it. And who could ever forget when they lowered down the body and the lightning and the thunder and in the castle, and fucking Colin Clive walks up, and they had that great shot I did as the thumbnail of this video where he sees the fingers move and he goes, "It's alive! Oh, it's alive! In the name of God! Now I know what it is to be God!" Which was super controversial at the time because in 1931, you don't fucking take the Lord's name in vain, by God. But he did it there. And I know in some VHS cuts, DVD rips, whatever, they cut that line out a lot, which is funny, but it's fully restored here. I get it. I know people are like, "Oh, you don't do that. Don't mention God." But it's a fucking film, man. Just like, I don't know, just there's a lot more films out there that you can bitch about, man. That's one line that I just never, I don't know, just completely blows my mind that at one time that was a big deal. But it was. It's no joke, and it's no secret that that was a big deal at a time. But one of the most iconic scenes in the history of horror, and all the amazement on the people's faces in the room, just in sheer just like shock, like, oh my God, this son of a bitch pulled it off. And I like that the next few scenes, you don't see Frankenstein, the monster. You don't see the monster at all. They wait a little while before they really reveal what Frankenstein's monster looks like. And I like that. It kind of builds some suspense. You're like, oh man, like what the fuck's gonna happen in this? And I love the scene where how James Whale directs this. They have the monster back into the room slowly but surely, and turns around. You see that iconic makeup and Boris Karloff in that makeup. And man, this is the movie that really made Boris Karloff the horror movie legend, icon, whatever you want to call it, that he is known as today. And what I think is amazing is this was a guy that didn't really have too much of a career leading up to this. This was a guy, this was his 81st feature length film. 81. 81 fucking films. And this was the one that finally, had him break through the proverbial glass ceiling. 81, man. Think about that. 81 times it took to become that household name known as Boris Karloff. We all remember as the narrator of the fucking Grinch cartoon. We all remember in Black Sabbath. We all remember as this iconic character, Frankenstein's monster. And it's an iconic look. I mean, when you see that makeup and you see that face, I just think it's horror history. It's a nice little piece of horror history. And I love how Frankenstein's monster kind of gets out and he's roaming the village, and there's this iconic horror scene where he stumbles upon this little girl throwing flowers and tulips into this lake, and he leans down. And what I think is brilliant here, again, more great horror psychology. I think what's great here is the fact that you think about it. Okay, this was an abnormal brain. This is a giant monster, blah, blah, blah. This isn't a monster that really had any malice or really had any intent to harm. A lot of the killings, at least especially in this film, seem very accidental because Frankenstein's monster starts playing with this girl. They're having fun. She's handing him stuff. He's liking it. They're laughing together, throwing stuff. And then he gets a little carried away, just like any child could. I think there's a childlike quality to Frankenstein's monster that very few pick up on. And I think that Boris Karloff just nails that childlike element. And he throws this girl in and she gets killed. And you're just like, oh my God. Granted, I won't lie, I laughed. Like this time around, I fucking laughed. I was just sitting here. I don't know why. I felt bad after. I felt like a bad human. But I fucking burst out laughing. He throws that girl in the pond. There was actually a cool behind the scenes story that I could tell with that too. But I've had a ton of comments during this. So I'm trying to go back. Hold on. Wow. I don't know where I was at. Let's see. Well, the reason why it probably looks good in the black and white helps the movie. It gives a short of timeless feel. Honestly, that makes it more scary than something like Friday the 13th. Yes, I think this film, it is very scary considering and it's definitely the scariest of these three I'm going to talk about tonight. It's just that gothic element and just the uneasiness and the lack of a musical score. See, that's a beautiful thing in Bride. I love the musical score in Bride, but the lack of music here, it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in its execution. It works. It works for this film. I don't think that it needed any side music. There's just really a huge lack of music, but I think it really works here personally. Yeah, it does add a nice atmosphere. I completely agree. I know more modern stuff, Junebug, know more older stuff about film. I think Junebug knows it all too. But yeah, no, I definitely, I know Ty loves this stuff. Biggest misconception, Pete. Yeah, that's true. Yep, definitely. Of course, Devin knows more than Hollywood. Yeah, that's true. Yes, I did some digging on Colin Clive just because of how much I loved his performance in this film. Colin Clive was a drunk on set half the time. Actors back then and still to this day and get better performance if they have. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if that. I don't know. He was energetic for a guy that was fucking hammered. I'll tell you that. But in the second film, in Bride of Frankenstein, you could totally see that he's more subdued. I definitely think in Bride of Frankenstein you could tell, and I know that he had the accident with his leg, and that's why he's sitting most of the film. But it's very much more a subdued performance. Like I actually compare it a lot to James Stewart in Rear Window. As much as I love James Stewart, I think that performance works because he's much more dialed down, and in this he's dialed up. It almost reminds me of the difference between Willem Dafoe in Spider-Man 1 and the Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2. Dafoe dialed it up to 11. Molina dialed it back to 5. And both of those performances work exactly because of that. However, I will say Colin Clive, I like him far better dialed up in the first film. I just think he was just, oh man, captivating, truly captivating. And props to Boris Karloff in order to make him look taller. Yes, they did. Yes, he did. He had really bad back problems, especially the scene where he's carrying Colin Clive, Dr. Frankenstein, up this like windmill. He's carrying him, and they said that Boris Karloff's back after shooting that scene. He said he was in such fucking pain, which is such a damn shame. I think he had like 3 back surgeries in his life. Really horrible to hear, but I mean, the guy's an absolute legend. I know. I'm sure he wouldn't. I'm sure he regrets maybe doing some physical stuff, but I don't think he regrets taking the role at all. And in the later sequence, yeah, it's a damn shame. It's alive. Oh, Clive was good in Mad Love too. Yeah, I want to watch more Colin Clive films. I was reading this, but I couldn't seem to find the film. He did a film with Otto Preminger apparently, which I thought Otto Preminger was like more in the 40s. Granted, I could look that stuff up. I know he did. It's funny. He did a movie with, I think, wasn't it Jimmy Stewart in the, they're all in a courtroom. What the fuck was the name of that movie? I know Preminger directed, and like Jimmy Stewart is hired and he basically defends these people, gets them off. And then the whole twist at the end was they were guilty. I love that movie. I forget the damn name of it though. Totally a true classic. Completely agree. Karloff based a lot of his performance on children. It's truly how he saw the monster. He said, "Yeah, I think that was the most intelligent thing they could have done because even though they set it up for, oh, it has an abnormal brain, blah blah blah. This is just an infant, a child, like we all once were." And that's why I love that psychology. And I think that's prevalent in all 3 of these movies, even Son of Frankenstein, which lacks the psychology that James Whale brought, I think, to the first 2. But there's that one mirror scene where I'll get to that too. But like, I definitely think Boris brought a lot to the role. And it was definitely like then they switched to Legosi, when they switched to um, Lon Chaney Jr., you saw a difference that I honestly didn't like. Boris Karloff, I think, still is the man when it comes to stuff like that. I've actually been to Dwight Fry house. He was one dude. It's so wild. I believe he is in all of the first 5. He's in all 5. I know there are scenes in Son of Frankenstein they say that he cut out of because originally they wanted it to be in color. But Dwight Fry, man, he is a lot of fun in all these movies, and it's funny that he found a way in each one of them, playing pretty much a different character in all of them. Just pretty interesting. But getting back to that scene, that iconic scene where Frankenstein's monster throws the little girl in the water. Basically, they did that a few times, and the take wasn't coming out right, and the little girl was losing patience. And the director came up to her and was like, "Listen, we got to do it one more time. We're going to nail it. But you tell me anything you want, I'll get it for you. Anything you want. You tell me right here, right now, I'll level with you. Please, just please be a professional. Do this scene for me, and anything you want, it's all yours. No questions asked." So without batting an eye, without missing a beat, this little girl looks him dead in the eyes and goes, "I'll have 12 hard-boiled eggs, sir." And fucking James Whale's like, "What the fuck?" He looks and asks the mom, and the mom was like, "I don't give her those. That's her favorite snack." And of course, James Whale, being the cool dude that he was, he not brought 1 dozen, he brought 2 dozen. I love that story. I love little behind the scenes anecdotes like that. Like, oh man, we had a problem shooting the scene. And what do you do when you're filming with a little kid and a giant monster that's acting like a little kid? It's an interesting scene. It's like a children's scene, but there's so much great horror imagery and iconicness that comes out of that moment. It's absolutely wild. And I always remember, to me, I think the scariest shot of the film is the shot of the father holding his daughter's dead corpse in his hands, walking through the town, and all these people just start to look and go, "Oh shit." Like, just that, his face, it's just, oh my god. In that moment, it's like his life is over. He cannot believe it. The emotion on his face, that's horror at its finest, in my opinion. And I think that actor did a fantastic performance. And like, I definitely think that little girl scene, it just, so much comes from that. The psychology, the memorability, and then that scene after where I'm holding my dead daughter, I'm holding my dead little kid, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever, little kid in my arms. And it's just so haunting, in my opinion, just such a haunting little scene. And then, of course, well, Ty said, "Oh wait, I'm sorry. There we got 2 comments. Has anyone here seen the movie Freaked? I watched that a few days ago, and it was weird." No, I had no interest in seeing that. Honestly, I heard it was great by everybody. not in the mood for a movie like that. I'm just not right now. Maybe down the road. Well, that's why you get the best performance out of children. You tell them how good performance they've doing, give them positive reinforcement rather than negative reinforcement. Yeah, I think the big thing with kids, personally, with me, is like just treating them with respect. Like he walked up to her and said, I need you to be a professional, and I'll level with you, meet me halfway. And I think that's the main thing. If you show kids respect, they'll respect you right back, man. Kids are loyal. And I definitely think that that's a really smart path for a director to take. Just be like, hey, I'll reward you, and thankfully he did, and doubled the reward. I thought that was pretty cool, because children can't really comprehend you suck. They can't take stuff. Yeah, exactly. They can't at all. But I also think a smart thing with children, especially child actors, good child actors, is they don't think about what they're doing as much as an adult would. Like, I don't know if anybody's really watched Leave It to Beaver, but I always remembered the older brother when that show first started. The older brother was a really good little actor. He was good, you know, definitely passable, serviceable. But as he got older, it seemed like he sucked more and more, which is weird. And I personally think that's a big part of thinking about it too much, and putting too much into it. Like, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to go do this, it's, oh, well, how should I approach this? How should I do ABC? Don't think about it. I think that's what the good child actors do. They don't think about it. They just kind of show up and do what they can do. And I think that's how you get the most organic, genuine performances. That's what I think. I don't know, people might disagree, but that's personally what I think. I think that's what adults need to understand. If you want to respect it, you got to give it a go first. Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that. Mr. Zitro's in the hazy. Greetings, my friend. Cheers to you. I don't know what you're drinking tonight, but I'm drinking, because it's Frankenstein, had to be drinking something green, and it just happens to be my favorite drink in the world. Cheers to you, Mr. Zitro. You can tell us what you're drinking too. I don't know what it is tonight. I'm sure. I don't know. Maybe Thursday's your soda night because of me. I don't know. I'd like to think that personally. But getting back into the original Frankenstein, I've always loved how Dr. Frankenstein's confronted by the townspeople, and how, even though he admits and conforms with them, and they're like, we have to go hunt this monster down, he admits and completely complies with them. It's not an argument. It's not oh, you misunderstand, or it's not a biased opinion from Colin Clive's character. It's not. He's like, this is wrong. I'm sorry. But I think what's great about Colin Clive, and why I think it's an all-time great performance, is you still see some of the love and admiration he has for his own creation. It's not anything he says. It's the look in his eyes. It's the scene where they lock eyes on that little hill, and they look at each other. And I think personally, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking out of my butt here, but I get the vibe personally that he's just so still fascinated but disappointed at the same time. Like I was saying before, sometimes the dream dies just a little bit harder than the man. And that whole visual finale, that's just a spectacle to look at, in my humble opinion, where Frankenstein and the doctor, they go up into this fucking windmill, and the villagers, they set it on fire, and just the dramatic element of Dr. Frankenstein falling from the top, just unbelievable visual there. And believe it or not, see, Mr. Junebug, I've done my research here. A lot of people don't realize this, and I don't know how much of this is true, granted, but in my research, this is what I found. The original director of this, Robert Florey, actually shot a lot of the exterior shots for that final scene where the windmill is on fire, that giant windmill. Robert Florey, the original director, he actually filmed that. That just 2 weeks before production, started, like big time started, he left. Him and Bela Legosi left, because that was originally going to be the tandem. It was going to be Lugosi as the monster, and it was going to be Robert Florey in the director's chair. And unfortunately, they got handed a bad script. They didn't like it, so they walked. And then in comes James Whale, in comes Boris Karloff, and Colin Clive, who was good friends with James Whale. They did like theater together before that, along with Elsa Lanchester, who went on to be, of course, the Bride of Frankenstein. I think that, even though I no disrespect to Bela, no disrespect to Robert Florey, especially because I love Bela as Ygor in Son of Frankenstein. We'll get into that. I just don't think they would have worked. I think James Whale brings that psychology, and I think Boris Karloff brought the childlike element that Bela Lugosi would never have brought. I really don't. I love Bela, and I think Bella's fucking great, and probably the better actor of the two when it comes to just quote unquote acting, you know. But man, I think that tandem together was just oh so perfect. And I don't know, I just always thought the finale of this was just iconic, the visual. And I thought it was interesting that Robert Florey had his hands in some of that. So I'd like to give him a little bit of credit for sure. But I think the original Frankenstein's an all-time masterpiece. I don't know how much more I could really say about it. I think Colin Clive gives one of the best performances in the history of the genre. I think Boris Karloff absolutely becomes an icon. James Whale proves his name as a director, and I think this is the Universal monster movie that really set the world on fire. I dare to say. Like I know some people may like Dracula more, some people might like the Wolfman more, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Mummy. There's so many good ones, but when it comes to the movies that really made Universal horror monster movies popular, I look no further than the original Frankenstein from 1931. I'm going to come in with a perfect score. I'm going to come in with a 10 out of 10 for the original Frankenstein. Just absolutely adore this movie. I think it's lightning in a bottle in a lot of ways. And 90 years later, I'm still talking about it. So you know that somebody somewhere did something right. Let's see. Well, Richard Donner, he had directed the Goonies cast. All the kids, he said to Warner Brothers, we need at least 2 months for these kids to get to know each other and hang out with each other. Yes, you need chemistry. Chemistry is a big, and that's the same thing with Stand By Me, which I was talking about. That's like one of my top 20 favorite movies. I think Stand By Me, all those kids felt like they knew each other for years. Like River Phoenix and Will Wheaton together. Those scenes are just amazing. Worst movie you've ever seen besides Creepshow 3? Wow, that's fucking tough. But you know, one I talked about last week, Lords of the Deep, that was a piece of shit. I don't know if it's the second worst movie ever made. Oh man, I don't know. That's so tough, man. There's so many fucking bad films out there. Cannibal Terror, that's a really bad one. Um, Disaster movie, American Psycho 2. American Psycho 2, I said this in the chat before. American Psycho 2 had the fucking production value of a Teen Mom episode. And was directed by Morgan J. Freeman. And no, it's not the Morgan Freeman that's talented. It's the shitty Morgan Freeman. So yeah, fuck American Psycho 2. Right now, I'll say that. Beer. Oh, okay. Beer. What kind of beer? You gotta explain yourself, good brother. You'll be, dude. No, I won't be up all night. Trust me. I got a hematologist appointment in the morning, baby. That's a follow up. But we will be there in the AM for sure. Colin Clive was a classically trained stage actor, so the dude could act, and that's another thing that's missing in modern Hollywood. Yeah, you know that's funny you mentioned that. Like stage acting now, it's I don't know how many of these actors and actresses now start from that stuff, but it seems like less and less. And like it's funny, that's the thing I always loved about George Romero was he got actors like Gary Clark, Laurie Cordell, like David Early. Those were stage actors in Pittsburgh at the time. John Amplis. He would literally go to see a play, and then if he liked somebody in the play, he would go after the play and be like, "Hey, do you want to be in my movie? You want to be Martin?" Just I think that it's a genuine element that's just missing from the genre right now. Oh my God, King Ygor, mom, dude, I ain't your mom, I'm your brother for life. Ygor, dude, I hope you're doing well, man. I hope all is well. I miss talking to you. I wish you'd give Instagram back again because I miss talking to you all the time and talking about stupid shit because I don't know, you're just one of my favorite people to talk to. Hope all is well with you, man. King Ygor, dude, he is the king. Bow down to the fucking king, all right? Well, the actor who played Dr. Pretorius, the actor was actually gay, and James Whale directed him to ham up the gay and make it obvious. That I never knew that. I did not know that at all. That's actually pretty wild. See, we're good. We have Ty Junebug in the Heezy. He knows these things. I had no idea that actor was gay. That's amazing. But the performance is he really does ham it up. Dr. Pretorius is a hammy character. Ygor, 10 and 10 out of 10. I completely agree. Original Frankenstein is my favorite of all the Universal monsters. Sun is the best look. Yeah, I got to say I was a little bit disappointed with the Sun of Frankenstein Blu-ray. There are aspects of it, and I was going to get to this when I meant the review, but that's you mentioned the look. There are scenes where when they go from like a transitional scene, like ending a scene to the next, you can clearly see, at least on this Blu-ray, that it's not high def. Like you could see it goes back to standard def for a few seconds. Really fucking weird. I've never seen a Blu-ray like that did that. That's so strange. I don't know if it's my disc. I don't know if anyone else can confirm that. But like I was watching it last night, I was going, "What the fuck?" In the transition scenes, it literally looks like it's you know back and grainy and shit, and then it like fixes itself. Really weird. And I thought to myself, oh well, it just must be the Blu-ray. Maybe the disc is scratched. This is I had never even opened this, so there's no way. There's no. It's not like oh well, it's been around for years or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it was just a bad disc or a bad Blu-ray disc. I don't know, but the transfer on that really let me down. Other than that, though, I think it's a really well directed film and gorgeous looking. I wish there was a better edition out. That one deserves. I don't know if there's a solo Blu-ray. I don't know if anybody could tell me that if there's a solo Blu-ray of Sun. Because if there is, and it's not the same one I have here, I'd like to pick that up because it is a beautiful film. I agree. First two Frankenstein movies are the best monster movies of all time, in my opinion. I have to agree because they have it all. They have not just that monster element, not just the great storytelling and over the top fun characters, but they also have wonderful horror psychology. And I think that's really what does it for me. Like, I think of The Wolfman, I love the film, but like it's not filmed with that much horror psychology. Not when you compare it to Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. And that's no disrespect to Lon Chaney or The Wolfman. I love those movies too. But to me, the first two, Bride and the original Frankenstein, I absolutely adore. But that brings us, I guess, to our next film of the evening. This was the sequel from 1935. James Whale, actually cool enough, returned to direct, and it is none other than James Whale's The Bride. Or I should do it like Dr. Pretorius, right? The Bride of Frankenstein. Yes, The Bride of Frankenstein, 1935. I give once again a little plot synopsis. Mary Shelley reveals main characters of her novel survived. Dr. Frankenstein, goaded by an even madder scientist, now builds his monster mate. Oh yeah, we're gonna do the monster mash, the monster smash, if you will, here on the graveyard right now. Bride of Frankenstein. Now, I I gotta say, for the longest time, I would say this is probably my favorite Universal monster movie, and it probably still is. It's this or Frankenstein. It really is. It's I really go back and forth personally. Like I go back and forth with those two a lot. But I will say, in my humble opinion, that this is the one that I think is the best overall made film. And while I think the first film is a better gothic horror film, I think Bride of Frankenstein is just the total package. And right off the bat, it starts out with Mary Shelley telling kind of the recap of the first film. And Mary Shelley is played by none other than Miss Elsa Lanchester, who got the job, which I thought this was really cool. She got the job because she knew Colin Clive. They did a play together a year after Frankenstein in 1932. They did a play together, and he was like, I love working with you. It was a great time. And then when they started production on this film, they were like, oh, whose name should we bat around to be the bride? Whose name should we bat around to be Mary Shelley? Well, he went to James Whale and was like, listen, I know this girl, Elsa Lanchester. I think she'd be perfect. She's beautiful. She's a great actress. She's really talented. And that's how Elsa gets the role. And what I think is really cool too, right off the bat, going psychology wise, Elsa looks beautiful playing Mary Shelley. I mean, her cleavage is out. She's looking gorgeous. And I think later in the film, and this is something that I kind of got, of course, she's the bride. I think in a lot of ways that's James Whale saying, horror and the most brutal, scary stories can come from such young beauty. I don't, I just, oh man, James Whale was fucking great in my opinion. Like, I think that's the number one thing I like from him as a director. It's not so much his camera angles technique, even though I do think that stuff is on point. Cinematography, especially in the original, I think is fantastic. I will say that I think that his psychology is really why I'm drawn to him as a director. That's a guy that got it. He completely got the genre, in my humble opinion. And I wish he had made more. I wish he had done more films. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that he got very sick, and I think he took his own life in the early 50s, James Whale. So may he rest in peace, because I think he just did an excellent job. I see. Let's see. Oh my God, I missed a bunch of comments. Let's see. Wrong Turn 3 is probably worse than Creepshow 3. I will say Creepshow 3 is worse, but Wrong Turn 3 is that's an abortion. All right. I hate Wrong Turn 3. Yeah, Wrong Turn 3 is the worst one, and that's saying a lot. Totally, man. Romero is greatly missed. I agree with that. Did anybody here watch Dragon Ball Z? Totally. I watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid. Love that. Stage acting is real acting. Grande over here going to make me cry. Too kind, sir. Someday I'll make a. Yeah, man. Or even if you want to, exchange numbers or emails, whatever, man. I miss talking to you. I love you. You always like make me fucking laugh. Like you're good people, man. DBZ, yeah, man. My buddy got the complete box set, man. We watch it from time to time. It's the original Dragon Ball Z is just a fucking great show. I'm sorry, not the original, but the second, because of course Dragon Ball Z was the spin-off of Dragon Ball. Well, Bela Legosi later played Monster Meets the Wolfman. To be honest, kind of I felt that way with Lon Chaney in Frankenstein. The same way, yeah. I don't know. It's just too expressionless when he plays him in Ghost of Frankenstein. I don't know, just way too. And I know some people are like, oh, well, that's the point. He's weaker in Ghost of Frankenstein. But I don't know. Personally, I just was kind of, I didn't really care for that performance too much personally. And I love Lon. Love Lon, especially in stuff like Spider Baby. Huge fan of Lon. Same King Gore. What am I surprised by? It's in a nobody Hollywood or independent market as a fan film or anything has ever made a good version of Dracula versus the monster. Dude, I don't know why versus movies are so tough. Like, has there ever been a great versus movie? Like, probably not. I might have skipped a couple. I'm sorry. My Wi-Fi is whacked away. Who's better, Bela Lugosi or Bella Thorne? You can only smash one. Well, I would smash Bella Thorne, all right, because I love me some Bella. She's fucking hot. As long as she takes a shower, because she looks like a dirty bitch. But I don't know. I like me some Bella when she's fully washed. Can I put Bella Thorne in an extreme stunt? An accident happens on set, and I collect the insurance money. What the heck? I don't even know what you mean. As long as you join Bela Lugosi's OnlyFans someday. Stop it. You're a fucking clown. So this is why I miss talking to this clown. Only he would think of Bela Lugosi's OnlyFans. Like, this fucking kid, man. There's a suspicion about James Whale's death. They don't know if he was murdered or took his own life. Sick stuff. Yeah, I personally, from what I read, I thought it was suspicious too, but I do believe it was a suicide. It's a tragedy. But that's personally what I believe. But I don't know. I know what you mean. There's controversy there for sure. Yeah, he did. And I think a lot of that might have weighed on him. Yeah, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman is badass. Yeah, definitely. I enjoy it. I think it's an entertaining time. But that's what I think. A lot of those, like, that's all they have to be. Like, they're never great. They're never like, wow, that's the greatest. You know what I mean? Like, but again, it's a versus movie. It's an hour and a half. Give me some fucking popcorn and some soda pop, and I'm going to enjoy my ass. That's all a versus movie has to be to me. Doesn't have to be this, that, and the other. But I do kind of think that's, is what it is. Godzilla versus King Kong. That's a good one. Yeah, surprised me. Completely surprised me. I love Lon. You love Lon. Oh shit, he called, but she is, dude. She is though. Like, take a shower, bitch. Like, oh my god, like, you're one of the most beautiful women in the world. Fucking bathe, lady. Come on. Holy shit. It's like they fucking hose her down before they film or something, man. Oh man, I don't know. Bella, I love you, but fucking take a shower, all right? That's all I'm trying to say. I ain't trying to be mean. I ain't trying to lie. It's just the truth hurts sometimes. There's not brutal honesty. There's only brutal lying, ladies and gents. That's one lesson you can learn from the graveyard, free as can be. Well, back to Bride of Frankenstein. This is a fucking segue and a half. Bride of Frankenstein, though, there's quite a few reasons why I love it. And first and foremost, again, the opening, after they kind of, give the whole wraparound and, okay, this the summary and what happened in the original. I love the opening kill scene of that couple. Of course, they were the parents of the little girl, and I need to see his dead body for sure. I need to see it so I can sleep at night. And he goes down, of course, falls, and we see Boris Karloff kind of emerge from the shadows, all this mud and musk on his face. Oh my God, just epic stuff, man. I love how Karloff first appears as the monster in this. And of course, kills his ass, goes back up, takes the wife, and pretty much does like a scoop slam to that bitch all the way down the well. It's a cheesy little like fake dummy body, if you will. But I don't know, awesome little kill. Little let the bodies hit the fucking floor. Awesome stuff. And then the monster's kind of on his way, and then we follow Dr. Frankenstein recovering from the first film, and he is encountered by Dr. Pretorius, who we were talking about before, who gives just a very fun, over the top performance. There's scenes where he's toasting alcohol to a skull, just this crazy son of a bitch that is an admirer of what Frankenstein did, and he's a scientist in himself. He actually creates these little people and like little, kings and stuff, and he shows Dr. Frankenstein this stuff, and he goes, listen, look, for every little king, I've made a queen. And now, with your help, I know you've exceeded my work a little bit, but I say for the male that we've made, we now make a female specimen. It'll be interesting. Let's see what happens. And right when he lays the groundwork, I just immediately just get so into the film. I'm like, yes, like let's take me on this journey. You have my money, you have, my attention. And I just love Dr. Pretorius. I think he just almost steals this movie. I want to get the actor's name here. What the hell was his name again? He was Ernest, excuse me if I mispronounce this, Ernest Thieseger. I'm not sure. I could be wrong in that pronunciation, but he almost steals this movie. And I think in a lot of ways where Colin Clive gives that big energetic performance of the first one, I think in steps Dr. Pretorius, and he gives the big energetic scenes and feel to this movie, whereas Colin Clive is very much more subdued because he wasn't able to do that much with his, for lack of a better word, animated kind of role that he did in the first film, in my opinion. And a lot of that was probably due to Colin Clive's health. Colin Clive, and I read this son of a bitch had a sad ending to his life. Like his own wife did not attend his funeral, and also neither did the director James Whale, and they were apparently very good friends off the set, off the scenes. Thought that was wild. Like you didn't go to your good buddy's funeral. His own wife did not go. Just very weird, I thought, because I just thought Colin Clive seemed like the coolest guy ever. And they interviewed the little girl from the first film. She said Colin Clive was the nicest guy in the world, and how she couldn't believe that they wouldn't show up to his own, your own husband's wake. Very fucking strange. So I don't know. I think in a lot of ways Colin Clive probably suffered from depression. And I know I read that he had tuberculosis. He had a lot of health problems, heart problems, lung problems, and of course the drinking problems probably shot his liver. And that's probably why he passed away at the young age of 37 years old. So I just wanted to say rest in peace, Colin Clive, because I thought he really makes the first film what it is. And I will never forget his performance as Dr. Frankenstein in these two films, because he's a big draw to me. Like I know a lot of people that Karloff, to me, I say Clive. I say Clive. It doesn't say Frankenstein's monster. It's not the name of the movie. The name is Frankenstein. That was the doctor. That was the scientist. That was Mr. Colin Clive. And I really loved him as an actor, respect his performance. And Chris V was mentioning another movie he was in. So I definitely would like to see more of his work. And I'd love to see, I don't know if anybody knows the time he worked with Otto Preminger. I would love to see that movie, because that's a great actor, great director. Usually you get a great result. And we follow Frankenstein throughout the woods, and there's a time where he comes across this woman, and she's kind of, in this smaller waterfall. That's a really pretty scene. There's a scene where all the villagers, they kind of attack him. He gets away from that. And then you get one of my favorite scenes, probably my favorite scene in any of these movies, is where Frankenstein, he stumbles across the house of this old blind man playing the violin or the viola or whatever, playing that. And the monster, he kind of comes to the door, and the blind man turns around and he says, "Who is there? I can't see." And he goes, "Are you a friend? Can you be my friend? I'm so alone." And you get this great scene where the two of them, they kind of share a moment, and then he starts to make him like supper. And he looks at him, he goes, it's so horrible to be alone. I hate being alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being my friend. And the blind man goes on and on and on. And then Boris Karloff, of course, friend, he starts to learn how to speak, which is not prevalent in any of the other films, especially the next one, where they don't even mention why he doesn't speak anymore. But he sort of learns how to speak. And then these two town villager assholes, they kind of stumble across this old man's house. And they go, "That's the monster, blind man. He's the monster. He's killed a child, blah, blah, blah." And I love the blind man's response, because this is horror done right, in my opinion. he pushes the monster back and he goes, "This is my friend." And I think in a lot of ways that's almost a precursor of something that was way ahead of its time and almost talking about prejudice. Like I don't care what he looks like. I don't care, what you say about him. That's my friend back there. I don't care if he has bolts in his head. I don't care if he was a reanimated corpse. That's my friend. At the end of the day, that is the only goddamn thing that matters. That is my friend. And I don't like being alone. Nobody likes being alone. That guy back there, that's my friend. And I always loved that scene. I think there's such a weight, an emotional weight to that just every single time I see it, it just really it gives me chills in a great way. And then you see how these two idiots can't accept that. That's not your friend, that's a monster. And of course, the house goes up in flames because these two idiots, they come in, they cause a muck, and of course the house goes up in flames, almost saying in a lot of ways, I think if we can't accept who some people's friends are, it'll all go up in fucking flames right around us with us trapped inside. Great horror psychology. Great horror psychology. That's why I love James Whale. I think he brought a lot of that to this because I don't think a lot of that was there, especially in the novel. There's, granted, I won't lie, I've not read the novel, but those themes are never mentioned when you hear that novel mentioned. It's very much straight up horror. Whereas that, there's so much gray area to what's going on, and I just think that's incredible stuff personally. Just one of my favorite scenes in the history of film. I really adore it. Let's see. I don't remember where the heck were we. I might have missed some. I'm sorry. If I did, you can repost them. Hey Devin, oh, we should have a John Grande do the parody of the angry video game. He's the angriest gamer you've ever heard. He's the angry Nintendo nerd. I love the angry video game nerd. He's also a diehard horror fan, Cinemassacre. Love him, man. James are all cool people. I am flattered that somebody would say that because that son of a bitch does this for a living. If I could do this for a living, I'd be very flattered. Everybody watches performance, and you could see that he's basically hamming up. I, some of the hand gestures. I guess so. I never thought of that. I never had that in mind while watching it. Next time I do tie, I will be paying attention to that for sure. Fun fact: Clive Barker put Bride of Frankenstein as number one film. I know who else says it's his favorite film of all time is Guillermo del Toro. Says Bride of Frankenstein is his favorite film of all time, and I can't really blame him. It's a masterpiece. It really is. It's so much more than just your run of the mill horror film to me. From the second dimension. No, I'm still in the same dimension as him. Unfortunately, I'm the broke angry video game nerd. Colin Clive, his wife was a real bitch. That is one of the reasons why he was an alcoholic, because his wife was a very controlling type of woman. I see. No, I didn't read any of that either. I read that, they asked her why and she wouldn't give a reason. So I guess she comes off as a bitch. I didn't know she was the reason he drank though. I guess any bitchy wife could fucking cause a man. He could cause a man to have whiskey on his breath. Tell me what movie. Anybody tell me what movie, you get 5 points. Hint, it's King Nigord's favorite movie. And James Whale, because they were such good friends, he was never the type of man to go to funerals because, I remember hearing the story with David Spade with that when Chris Farley passed. Like David Spade couldn't go even though they were best friends, and he said, "I can't go in a room where Chris Farley's dead in a box." Really sad stuff. But I appreciate the honesty. I personally, but I would, if that was my boy, I would go personally. That's just like my mentality. But I could see the other side of the coin to that completely. That's going to be like me, since most of my friends on the internet, most of them, yeah, totally. Frankenstein's monster is more human than Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah, definitely, because it's more of the childlike innocence. There's more of an innocence to the monster than there is to the man who created it. It's just it's weird, but that's kind of true. Yeah, completely. I agree with you completely. And then, of course, this kind of all culminates to they want to make the bride, and Frankenstein's on the run pretty much a lot of this movie. Of course, he stumbles across Pretorius, and there's this epic scene where they confront Dr. Frankenstein, and Pretorius, of course, being the fucking lunatic he is, he takes credit for the monster speaking now. He's like, you see, it's almost like in a lot of ways, he's like, you see what I did with your creation? You simply gave it life. I made it speak. I think that was just amazing. I thought that was such a fun little like jab to the doctor. Like, you think you're good, bro? I just made the sumbitch talk. Love Dr. P, man. Dr. P is Dr. Pepper. No, Dr. Pretorius. Dr. Pretorius is good, clean comedy. Absolutely love him. And then of course we get to this crazy finale in the castle, and the bride is going to be reanimated, and oh man, I just love how they build this tension and how she's about to be born and all this stuff. Just really good stuff, really good cinematography shots and direction from James Whale. I love some of the angles he uses in the laboratory. um, and you see that even though Dr. Frankenstein's going along with this, there's this look of doubt and fear on his face because he sees what has happened with Exhibit A. Who knows what could happen with Exhibit B, kind of thing. I love that sense of fear on his face as they kind of raise the thing to the top of the castle, and of course struck by lightning, put back down, and it's alive once again. And I like how they kind of slowly say it's alive, and Dr. Pretorius with the classic line, the Bride of Frankenstein, and then they chime in that little score, da, 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 da. Bride walks out, and it's just one of my favorite moments of this series. And it's weird how iconic this Bride of Frankenstein character has become in popular culture over years. How many times have you gone to a Halloween party and you see somebody with the Bride of Frankenstein hair? How many times do you see that costume in Party City? It's incredible because she doesn't make another appearance in any of these original 8 films. She's only in this film for the last, I'm not kidding you, and I counted, the last 4 minutes of this movie. She has 4 minutes. That's it. That's 4 minutes of that character. Yet 90 years later, there's still people that will dress up like the Bride of Frankenstein. I don't know. I will open this for the chat here because I'd love to know why. Why people would think that character has become so iconic. Because I'd love to know your all's thoughts personally, because I'm just like baffled by the whole thing. But I do think that Elsa Lanchester does a great job in the role, even though it's a very brief encounter. It's memorable at the end of the day. And I liked that they asked her, what do you want to do? We want you to be scared, so there's a scream. And then there's also a point where she hisses. And she said in an interview, she was like, well, you ever walk near a geese or a goose, if you walk near it, it'll hiss at you. She said, I wanted to do that, like a primal instinct, whereas Boris did the primal instincts of a child. She did the primal instinct of a fucking animal, of a geese, like just being, to completely go, oh shit, let's move away from this crazy bitch. I liked that. And what I really like is they've made this creature now for Frankenstein's monster. And we think, oh, he's so alone. He's been looking for a friend. He threw one into the water. He had another one burn around him. Here's this person, this mate, literally created in a laboratory for him. And what happens? She rejects him. She gives him the cold shoulder. She's horrified by him too. And there's a lot of, I think, personal psychology and horror in that too, of being rejected by someone who was literally and figuratively made for you. And Frankenstein's monster cannot believe it. He is angry and upset, and he's had it. He walks over to the self-destruction lever, and all of the people are just in shock. They're like, don't pull the lever, don't pull the lever, you'll destroy the whole castle. Of course, Dr. Frankenstein and his wife, who comes to his rescue, she's like, come on, Henry, come on. They run out of there, and Frankenstein has the classic line, you two leave, we belong dead. Pulls the lever. The bride, Pretorius, and Frankenstein, of course, all crumble to the ground as the film kind of fades to black. And I like, briefly, you see probably the biggest emotion scene from the monster. You see a tear roll down Boris Karloff's face as he pulls the lever and the film comes to an end. You see that, even over the course of however long these two movies took place in the world, I just think that you see so much growth of the Frankenstein character. We started with him. He was this innocent child, afraid with this abnormal brain, you know, not trying to harm, but inadvertently harming, and then having his heart broken, not only having his friendships taken away from him, but having his love relationships literally go fucking up in explosion. Just great stuff. And I love that you see that little tear that Frankenstein, you could tell Frankenstein's monster felt hurt that he was rejected, and that he felt that if this is my fate, if this is how it's going to be, if I can't be with someone that I love and have the loneliness, the pain of loneliness going away, then we belong dead. Horror history right there. Bride of Frankenstein, I'm coming in with the rifled score of another 10 out of 10. Probably my favorite of these three. It's close. This or the original are my favorite Frankenstein films, but I would lean towards this one for sure. The chat's been going wild again. I'm sorry. I missed a lot. Let's fucking go here. We'll start with this one, I guess. And I liked it. Oh, yes! See, Corey knows it's his favorite. That is Carrie. I love a man with the smell of whiskey on his breath. My mom does Piper Laurie, the impression. Perfect, man. It's actually fucking scary. She does that really good, and Ving Rhames in Pulp Fiction. That's like the two best impressions she can do. It's weird range, but very fucking spot on. The only reason I did not have whiskey was because my aunt would not like that. No, she would not. Chris V. Well, what, good brother? Well, what? And Elsa Lanchester was actually lesbian. I did not fucking know this. So you had one lesbian actress and a gay actor in this. I had no fucking clue. Elsa was fucking beautiful. I'll tell you that much. Was actually lesbian. Her husband, Charles Lawton, was gay, and they just agreed not to talk about it, but they knew about. Wow. I knew Charles Lawton was gay. That I knew. But I did not know Elsa was a lesbian. That's very interesting. Bride coming to life. Yeah, it really is. I love that score, the scope, and how she kind of walks like with her hands out a little bit, and just oh man, it's lightning in a bottle. I would love to know why though that character has become so iconic, because there's never another real movie. It's not a movie where she has her own movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the whole movie is her instead of Boris Karloff. Like on paper, when you first hear, oh, Bride of Frankenstein, is that about, a female Frankenstein and Frankenstein's not in it? No, this is really Frankenstein Monsters movie, and Dr. Pretorius's movie probably more so than anybody. But I don't know. It's just an iconic image. I agree. But as long as far Hollywood goes, their marriage is one of the longest. Wow. That's an interesting marriage for sure. Hey, 4 minutes is okay. At least that's what I tell my wife. As long as she can buy it, good brother, that's all that matters, man. I think that it is Elsa Lanchester had a unique presence to her, and the music build it up. Dr. Pretorius says the Bride of Frankenstein. Yeah, maybe it's just all delivery. Maybe it's just all how they fucking did it, man. That whole build up. You're right. It is really, really well done. Like, it's not rushed at all. They take their damn time building up to that reveal. And even though it's a short reveal, it really does pay off. I agree with that for sure. Presents. Oh, presents? I don't know. Chris V is just saying one word answers. I have no clue. Unless I missed one of your comments. If I did, I apologize. Being rejected by someone who was literally made for you, man, that would literally exactly. And I think that's the coolest thing ever. Like, it's just like, oh my God. Because I remember when I first watched this thinking, oh, cool, like they're gonna just be, this weird monster couple that will probably be in the next movie killing all people. Because I thought when I first heard the sequel was Sun, I thought, well, Frankenstein's monster and the bride, they're going to get banging, and then out comes this fucking, reanimated child. That's what I thought. But of course, when I first saw it years and years ago, I was like, oh shit. I was like, she dies? Like, oh my God, crazy. It's funny when you think back of like when you didn't know, or when you've seen these movies for the first time, all these kind of not just preconceived notions, but postconceived notions of like what the next one's going to be if you look at the title. Just weird, but I don't know, it is what it is. I always wondered, just a monster have sperm, could they actually reproduce? Fuck, I don't know. What the hell would you call that? Vindiction of the Dead? I don't know. Vindiction of the Dead, starring Ygor. That would be fucking badass. They're going to get banging. Dude, yeah, they got to do the monster mash. You got to fucking turn that damn song on. You do the mash, do that monster mash. John, oh my gosh, John, I didn't even know it was you. I didn't even know you were watching. Good brother Jonathan Schwartz. Hope all is well with you, man. So glad to see your name, man. Rock on. I don't know how long you've been here, but I don't know. We've been doing the monster mash for the past hour and 9 minutes. Welcome to the graveyard. Glad you're here. But with that being said, I could take a nice little drink of my drink here. Oh man, only the best. I guess no better way to transition into the next film of the series, the third and final film of this episode I'll be talking about. And I will say one of these days I'd like to do the other 5 of the original 8. The only thing is, like last week, I watched 6 movies before I did this, and like I found it very hard to fucking fit 6 movies in 7 days, like especially when you work full time and fucking want to do other shit. It's not easy to do, But with that said, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to watch 8 films again. I like to always prep and rewatch the fucking movies. So I only got to watch these 3, and I said, you know what, I'll just do the trilogy because those are the 3 that Boris Karloff plays the monster. So I figured Nick Reap's here too. What the fuck? It was a graveyard smash. Dudes, wow, both my bows in the house, man. It was a graveyard smash. We gotta get smashing on the graveyards. Open up your gates to the graveyard and bring your fucking shovels. We're going all the way live, baby. God love it. You got to love it. But Son of Frankenstein, very interesting title of the Universal monster movies, because basically what happened was they had only planned to do the original, really, the 31 film. Then they made the sequel Bride, and that was going to be it. They were like, all right, we're done. This story is fucking over. Let's call it a day. We made 2 really, really great films. Let's ride off into the sunset in our fancy cars, count our money, and like that. Until 1938, where Universal decided, hey, we're not making that much money right now. We've made a couple flops. Let's fucking re-release Dracula and the original 31 Frankenstein as a double bill. Let's just re-release it and see how it does for a weekend. It set the goddamn world on fire, and everybody and their mother wanted to go see the re-release of this double bill of Dracula and Frankenstein, Legosi and Karloff, back to back, belly to belly, monster to monster. Badass. Really cool, and it made a lot of money. And thus, that kind of got the Universal monster movie machine, if you will, the triple fucking M here, movie monster machine, whatever. It got to turn it up again. And they were like, we've got to make a third fucking film. Where do we go from here? Well, we've talked about Frankenstein's monster. We've talked about The Bride. Now we talk about the Son of Frankenstein from 1939. This one, this is such an interesting title because I'm so up and down with this movie. Like, part of me wants to say it's just as good, but part of me says it's a little bit of a step down from the first 2, and it probably is in all likelihood. They brought in a new director, Roland V. Lee, if you will. They didn't have James Whale. They don't have Colin Clive. You'd be thinking on paper, there's no way that this is going to work. But I think it works. I really think this movie works. I think Son of Frankenstein is a really, really good. I don't know if you want to call it a reboot or whatever, today that's what it would be called, but I think this is a damn good film, and it's surprisingly really well directed by, like I said, Roland V.E. I think he does a great job. I've not seen a lot of his other films, but he does a really, really good job in making this feel a little bit grander. And I definitely think you can tell that he had a little bit more money to work with as opposed to James Whale. And right off the bat, I have to say, I think Bela Lugosi steals this film. Of course, they had just re-released Dracula and Frankenstein, so the idea was, let's get Lugosi and Karloff in a movie together, in some way, shape, or form. So we'll keep Karloff as Frankenstein's monster, but we'll throw Lugosi in and have him play this crazy hunchback named Ygor, spelled with a Y. Of course, it was made more famous in Young Frankenstein, the Gene Wilder movie, Mel Brooks. That's where that character kind of became famous, but it's ripped off from this movie, not the first one, not where it's Fritz. It's this movie. And I've always thought that was very interesting. And man, Bela steals this movie. Of course, Ygor was this crazy man who was sentenced to hang. He hung, his neck broke, but he still survived. So he walks with this hunch, and his neck has like this giant bone sticking out of it that seeps through the skin. And man, some of the lines in this movie that he delivers are fucking iconic. I love it, man. There's a scene where he's talking to the Son of Frankenstein. He goes, this is a dead place. We're all dead here. And like the Son of Frankenstein's like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But I love that interaction. There's a scene where Bela's in the court and one of the jurors that sentenced him to hang originally is there. And Bela just kind of pulls a fucking heel. He just kind of coughs him. He's like, ha, ha, and spits on the guy. And the guy's like, he just spit on me. Did anybody see that? And Bela goes, sorry, I cough. There's a bone stuck in my throat. And he kind of just walks out of the courtroom. Just fucking classic, man, because Bela is just trolling anybody and everybody that comes in his damn way in this movie. And man, I just have a blast watching it because you can tell he had a blast acting this performance. You know, Dracula is a much more chilling, opposing figure. Whereas Ygor, I think he just literally said, you know what? I want to have fun here. And what I think is unbelievable to read here, because I did my research here, they initially signed him on for far less than what they were going to pay Boris Karloff and the lead actor Basil Rathbone, who played Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that before this. He plays the Son of Frankenstein. I thought that was incredible that they wanted to give Bela a pay cut. And what happened was, and this would never happen today, and I can give a perfect example after this. Boris and Basil, double B, baby. Boris and Basil, they went to bat for Bela. How many B's are in there? That's alliteration times 10, baby. Boris and Basil, they went to bat for Bela, all right? And they went to the producer and they said, you need to fucking pay him what you're paying us, if not more, because without that son of a bitch, we're not standing here right now. And begrudgingly, they gave in. They paid Bela what he deserved to be paid. And I am damn glad they did that because it is a disgrace. I repeat, a disgrace that they were going to fucking cut Bela Lugosi's pay because, oh, well, you're just a side character. Bullshit. Bela Lugosi is an icon. And he comes out here and, in my humble opinion, gives the best fucking performance of his entire career. So fuck those greedy producing bastards. That's one thing that hasn't changed in Hollywood. There's still greedy producing bastards in it. And that's the way it will always be. But I like that Basil and Boris went to bat for him. You don't see that shit now because I can give a prime example. And I've always thought this was fucking disgusting. Dumb and Dumber. Comedy mostly everybody loves. Pretty much universally praised comedy, right? Jim Carrey was paid $7 million for that movie to play Lloyd Christmas. Does anybody know what Jeff Daniels got paid off the top of your head? If not, don't worry, I will tell you. 50 grand. 50 fucking grand. Think about that. Dumb and Dumber, you're both on the poster. You're both the selling points of this movie. Granted, I understand that Carrey was probably more of a sell. I understand that. You don't have to fucking tell me that. Dumb and Dumber, that's a tag team movie. That's a buddy film. These two guys have got to be making around the same money. You paid one $7 million and the other one $50K. That's a fucking disgrace. And if I was Jim Carrey, I would have fucking went to the producer and said, you need to fucking pay him as much, if not more, than you're paying me. Or you can cut my pay in half, 3.5. He gets 3.5. And we'll take the $50K and we'll go to a fucking strip club and have a great night. All right? That's what Jim Carrey should have done. But Jim Carrey is about Jim Carrey. It's the truth. And I think, personally, that's fucking disgusting they did that to Jeff Daniels. But Jeff Daniels is a professional, and he went out there and did his job anyway, and he did his job damn well. But that's what I'm saying. Like, Hollywood, that would never happen now. You'd never get two lead actors to go, bullshit, Bela, you need to get paid more. We're going to go talk for you. You wouldn't get that shit now. You would not ever get that shit now unless you got a real humble son of a bitch in Hollywood, in my opinion, personally. I don't think you would get that. Again, comments. I'm sorry, guys. I've been talking a lot tonight. What the heck? I had a fun fact. The monster in the book is supposed to be 8 feet tall, and the actor who's the tallest actor to play Frankenstein is 7 foot tall, 7'4", I'm sorry. And that was Dracula versus Frankenstein, which that's probably one of the worst versus movies there is, Dracula versus Frankenstein. He did the mash, do. Got the, yeah, I got the Mountain Dew in a clear cup like a gentleman. I'm a gentleman, brother. I am a gentleman, only on the graveyard, though. Let's see. Junebug Films is an idea I had to do for Lion Stream. Oh, cool. Y'all talking about This emergency. Yes, they did that. Yep, and they didn't like have the way the makeup look on Karloff, and that's why. Oh God, what was the actor's name that got cut? The actor who played, I can't think of his damn name. I can't think of his name, but he was cut from the film, but he was technically in the original version. Let's see. Well, that was Bela Lugosi's whole strategy. He said, if I cannot beat Boris Karloff, I've got to give a better performance than him because grunting is not acting. Yeah, I know that he partially probably regretted not taking that role, but I think in a lot of ways it was good because you got to share the wealth, I think, in Hollywood. Like there can only be one monster here and then there could be a monster there. Like I like think about it. What if Robert Englund played Jason? What if Robert Englund played Michael Myers? Like I mean, I love Robert Englund, but like, why not distribute it? Like, why not? It's nice that there's a Nick Castle. It's nice that there's a Ted White. It's nice that there's a Dick Warlock. Like, it's nice that these other guys got a chance to get a job. You've got to share the wealth a little bit. I know that it's a selfish business at the end of the day, but I think it's nice that Boris became a star and then years later said, hey, I'm going to bat for that son of a bitch because that's a disgrace. You're going to pay him less than us. I think that's really tells you who Boris Karloff was. Well, actually, in the original script, Ygor was meant to be Fritz from the first movie. Yes, that's definite, and you could see the comparisons. But man, I love Ygor as a whole. Man, one of my favorite characters. I love it. I need to see this one, Son of Frankenstein. Highly recommend. I'll get into some more of it. Slight spoilers, but I'll tell you when I spoil stuff. So no worries. It's a good one. Actors back then had class for their fellow actors, and some of the moguls listened to their stars because they knew it. But yeah, totally agree with that. Absolutely. Karloff, sidekick, fuck you. Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit. Oh my gosh. Oh, Zetro throwing out the word. Jeff Daniels is a gentleman, but yeah, Jim Carrey has got to be Jim Carrey. Yeah, that's it's the unfortunate side of the business. Like, is Jim Carrey one of my favorite talents? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I don't know about the guy. Like, I don't know about Jim Carrey, the guy. I don't think I'd ever want to meet him because he comes off kind of like a prick to me. I don't know about that to Jeff Daniels. I would completely have went to bat for him personally because I think Jeff Daniels is just as important to Dumb and Dumber as Jim Carrey. I understand Jim Carrey draws more money. Hey, if you want to pay Jim Carrey $6 million and pay Jeff Daniels $4 million, I could see that. I could see he's going to draw us more money than you. I could understand that. That's hey, at least I make a $4 million. I'm not bitching about that. That's not a 5-figure compared to a 7-figure salary. That's apples and oranges. That's fucked up to me. I mean, beyond words, in my opinion. I think that's disgusting. If I was Jim Carrey, I would have said something. It's just me. I don't know. It's a great thing if I'm a director in Hollywood. I would always bat for my actors because people don't see a movie for me. Yeah, it's funny how much I talk about directors on here. Like I love Argento, I love Romero, I love Carpenter, Kubrick, so many great Scorsese, so many great filmmakers that I love. And like they are a huge draw when it comes to me and liking films. But at the end of the day, and I was talking about this yesterday with somebody, the most important thing really is drawing money, and actors draw money for you. It didn't say James Whale on the Frankenstein poster. There's no poster where you could see James Whale's Frankenstein. No, it's Boris Karloff Frankenstein. It's Bela Lugosi Dracula. It's Lon Chaney Wolfman. That's what draws the fucking people in. And that is the most important thing at the end of the day. It truly is. Whether it's a good film, or it's a bad film, or it's goddamn ugly film, drawing money is the most important element when it comes to making a film. And listen, you want a good director, you want to make a good product. So thus people go, hey, that was a good movie when they walk out. But I think what people, to get people in the seats, you've got to have some star power. And Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, who better than those two? Because they had just set the world on fire when they re-released both Dracula and Frankenstein in 1938. But this is a fun little movie. It basically, I can read a little plot synopsis of this too. Returning to the ancestral castle long after the death of the monster, the son of Dr. Frankenstein meets a mad shepherd who is hiding a comatose creature. To clear the family name, he revives the creature and tries to rehabilitate him. Yes, the Son of Frankenstein. Basil Rathbone is in this. He plays Baron Wolf on Frankenstein, the son, of course. And then he has a son, which I always thought, that's young Frankenstein. I always thought that was funny. I was like, what? How the hell old was Gene Wilder in 1939? I would have loved to have seen him play the role of the kid. Of course, it's not him, but I always thought that was kind of funny because you have Donnie Dunnigan playing the role of young Frankenstein. And then you've got Lionel Atwell, another great veteran actor playing Inspector Krogh. He is the one, he has like the arm, like his arm, they give you this whole backstory where his arm was ripped off when he was a child and Frankenstein broke through his house and ripped his arm off or whatever. Of course, that must have happened in between movies. There's a lot of this like that they kind of not retcon, like there's some continuity, but you can tell that like another movie must have happened in between this movie, even though Frankenstein's monster's still in a coma from the last film, which is weird because you never see Frankenstein's monster break into a house and rip off a child's limb. Like that never happens in the first two movies. But I mean, I guess it was just like, all right, we have to make this character interesting. Like, what are we going to do? And of course they do that. But I think he gives a really, really good performance and a really, really gray performance because he's not exactly like with Frankenstein. He's not exactly on his side. Like he has some doubts about him, but he doesn't see him as this awful monster that the rest of the townsfolk do. And the rest of the townsfolk, he gets off the train and he's like, I want to clear my father's name. He was a great man. He was an inventor. You know, it was an abnormal brain. It was a mistake, blah, blah, blah. And all the townspeople, they turn their back to him. And he's just like, shit, like, what do I have to do to clear my father's good name? And, you know, that's where he encounters Ygor. And that's why they decide, hey, let's revive this son of a bitch and prove to the world that was just a fluke, that was just in the moment. And I love just some of this movie's almost like a chess game, if you will, because Igor's using Boris Karloff's monster as this pawn, almost like, yeah, pretty much. It's crazy. Frankenstein's monster itself is almost a pawn of this film because if you think about it, the son of Frankenstein, he is trying to say that, you know, let's revive him and let's clear the name. So he's using him for that. Bela Lugosi's Ygor, he's trying to use him to pick off all the jurors that sentence him to hang. So he's using him as a pawn. And then there's a little bit of a sense that, you know, Krogh, whatever, he wants, you know, kind of peace with the whole thing because, you know, he's been living without his arm and you see he's upset about it. And, you know, his character is kind of the gray area where you have the white of Son of Frankenstein, the gray of Krogh, and then the total darkness of Bela Lugosi's Ygor, if you will. Just great stuff. It's almost like a giant chess game between three people. If there's not just black and white pieces, there's also a set of gray. And man, I think this one is really chilling when it wants to be. I like some of the shots of the castle and some of the fucking, you know, just wide shots the director uses. He really had a nice visual look to this movie, like AJ, Mr. Zicho was saying before. I like the visuals style. This Blu-ray was sort of a letdown for me, and I'm rarely one to bitch about Blu-ray transfer, but I think this deserves a better. I would love to see either Criterion or Arrow get a hold of Son of Frankenstein. That would be really cool because I think this Blu-ray needs to step up. And also, I hate the putting two movies on one disc or three movies on one disc. I think it's just disrespectful to the solo film in itself, personally. But I think this one has a lot of fun moments. You have moments where, you know, Ygor, he's watching Frankenstein pick off all these jurors and he puts one of the jurors underneath his fucking, his horse carriage, if you will. And the wheels run over the guy, breaking his legs and all his bones and shit like that. And Ygor is kind of just watching. And then after it ends, he plays this little fucking flute thing just to like kind of almost like the Oompa Loompa song, if you will, like to cue it. Like, funny, man. Bela Lugosi is just having a absolute ball playing Ygor, just playing a fun over the top heel in this. I just think he had a ball with this. And then, you know, it kind of all culminates with this really fun over the top finale where, you know, Son of Frankenstein, he has to confront Ygor because he knows what he's been doing and having, you know, the monster kill all these innocent people. he shoots Ygor in the chest, and he's like, ah, you know, he goes down. And then, of course, Frankenstein's monster finds Ygor and just erupts full of anger because, you know, Ygor kind of took him under his wing and was a friend to him, if you will, used him and pretended to be the friend, because that's really the thing that drives the Frankenstein monster. It's the loneliness, it's the search for companionship. And that's really prevalent in all three of these movies. Much less in this one than the first two, but it's there. There's a scene where, you know, he sees himself in the mirror, Frankenstein's monster, and Karloff gives like one last kind of like disappointed look. Like he looks in the mirror and it's just, you can see that kind of sheer disappointment on his face of being like, this is what I look like. Like this is an absolute horror, you know, no pun intended. And, you know, without saying a single word, you get exactly the emotion of that scene. And I think a lot of that's because of Boris Karloff. Boris Karloff really, really makes this work. And I know a lot of people say, oh, what did he have to do? Well, I could have done that. I highly disagree. And I think that's an ignorant statement at that, if I may so say so myself. I think that's ignorant because that's great acting, in my opinion. You're able to, I'm able to tell what you're trying to say without you actually coming out and saying it. It's just body language. It's just pure raw emotion. That's great acting, in my opinion. Whether you want to say it's grunting, oh, he's playing a monster, oh, he's this, oh, he's that. Completely disagree with you because I think there was a lot to that performance. And I think without Boris Karloff, you could see in Ghost of Frankenstein, I don't really like Lon Chaney as the monster. You could see when Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, I don't think Bela is, you know, great. He's meh as the monster. But again, nobody as good as Boris, in my opinion. So Boris Karloff, I think, just nailed this. But you have this fun kind of finale where young Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. Am I still here? Oh shit. My screen went black for a minute. If I'm still here, please let me all know. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Shit. Well, I'm going to wrap this up soon anyway. But you get this scene where he kind of grabs the rope and he swooshes down to Frankenstein, kicks him in the chest like Indiana Jones style, and the monster goes flying into the pit of sulfur. Big old fucking splash and like flames and stuff like that. And then they kind of just watch the aftermath as the film kind of fades to black. Really like that. I really like it's a fun ass finale. It's entertaining. I just think the world of this finale. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think this is weirdly enough, which I don't know if this is a fact people know. This is the longest single Universal monster movie of them all at 99 minutes, which is incredible because the first Frankenstein is like barely an hour, and the second one's like an hour 15, but that's including the prologue. And you know that's mostly the first movie too. So they're both about 70-minute films, which is crazy to me. And then you have this movie that's 99 minutes, but it doesn't go long. It has a good pace to it, looks gorgeous, has, in my opinion, the best Bela Lugosi performance of all time. And I don't know, there's something about this one that has a nice charm to it. Is it as good as the first two? Probably not. But at the end of the day, like when I say a sequel or something is a step down, that's normally a derogatory word. And I don't mean it here as much as I do with other films. Like, I think, you know, The Dream Child is a fucking negative step down from The Dream Master. But I think Son of Frankenstein is just a very small step down from the original and Bride. That's what I think. It's not like a 10 out of 10 like those two movies are. For me personally, Son of Frankenstein, I'll come in with a rifled 7.5 out of 10. I think this is a serviceable film, a very passable film, and a fun movie, a movie that I could see myself in you know years to come watching around Halloween time. A fun little spooky little adventure with good over the top acting, you know, fun, you know, colorful characters, and a really really fun finale. I really like Son of Frankenstein. I'll come in with the 7.5 out of 10, baby. Um, Back to the comments here. Let's see. There are over 1,000 directors in the world, but you can only name about 5 that the public remembers. It's sad but true. I kind of hate all the people that really think about now as money and popularity rather than telling a good story. Yeah, you know that's a big reason just not just in acting, but I think in like even the sports world. Like if you look at boxing, like Mike Tyson was a killer, and that's why people wanted to see that. You don't have that anymore. You don't. You have a lot of businessmen. Oh, I need to be paid X amount for my next fight. I need this, that, the. You're looking at it all wrong, brother. I get it. You're looking at it right. You know, I'm looking at it from a business. It's a smart way to think about it, but at the end of the day, it's actually a dumb way to think about it if you think about it, because this kind of mentality, it's not attractive. You know, if you tell me, oh man, I got two killers, they're going to go up against each other. Don't you want to see it? I'm like, take my money. I've got two guys. They're both really talented, but they're only going to fight if you pay 3 times the premium price and you're going to sit in a bad seat. What do you think? I'd say, you know what? I'm going to keep my fucking money. I'll spend it elsewhere because there's better shit to spend my money on. That's why boxing doesn't draw anymore, I think, because it's a lot of businessmen as opposed to killers, you know, and that's what I think people are drawn to, and personalities. That's why I think UFC has become so popular. Even though I'm not a diehard fan of UFC, the personalities, and I don't like Conor McGregor, but people want to see him win or they want to see his ass get knocked out. Either way, they're getting your money and they're getting your viewership, and that's all they want at the end of the day. You know, and I think Hollywood could take a page out of that too. You have a lot of these flashy actors that oh, I'm above this, I'm above that. You know, why are you above this? Why are you above that? Why? Because you make more money, because you're a bigger draw. Why? Go make a horror film. Go make a big mainstream horror film. I'd love to see one of the A-list actors now say, "Hey, I'm not bigger than this. I want to make a spooky, fun horror movie." You know, that would be the coolest thing in the world to me. And I just think the little kid actor in it played Bambi. Yes, he did. Yes, that is true. Um, 3 people using Frankenstein as a pawn as goals. Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting little plot. I really like the plot of this one. You should be able to tell what actor is thinking without a spoken word. I agree, and that's why I love Boris in this. You see, okay, cool, because I thought the Wi-Fi shit on me again. I got really upset. Thing is, Hollywood back there never really rushed films. They took their time with the script because film cost so much money back then that to do retake the script was yeah. And which is funny is they did technically rush this movie out. This was a very rushed production just because they wanted to capitalize on the success of the re-release of Dracula and Frankenstein. I read something somewhere where they finished filming very late 38 and this was released second week of 39. So I don't know, the post-production of this must have been really fucking brief. I mean really brief, like fuck it, throw it together, get it out there. And maybe that's why it's longer. Maybe that's why more shit didn't get cut and that's why this is the longest. Like I don't know that for a fact, but in my research I read that this was a very rushed production, but it doesn't show because all the actors really shine in my opinion. Aiden Baber says, would you say Son of Frankenstein is like Land of the Dead, a fun film, but nowhere near? Wow, that's a good fucking question. I would like to say it's more like Day of the Dead because, but then again, I like Day of the Dead just as much as Dawn and Night. Like Day is not a step down for me. In fact, it's my second favorite Romero zombie film. It's 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 Dawn, Day, then Night for me. That's like the top three for me. This is tough, Aiden. You stumped the Grande. I want to give an honest answer. That's why I'm thinking here. It's hard to say that this would be Land of the Dead because this, but at the same time, yes, because this is a reboot, technically. On paper, they were never going to make this movie. They never, if the 38 re-release did bad, that you would never have this or Ghost or whatever. I would say Ghost of Frankenstein is more of the fun film that is nowhere near the other installments for me. Like that to me, that's the first step down of the series. Even though again, it's not a bad film in my opinion. House of Dracula is the worst of these first 8. I don't even have to see. What was the one I didn't see? House of Frankenstein is the only one of these 8 I haven't seen. House of Dracula, in my opinion, was easily the weakest. Just a boring film. Nothing fucking happens. You get very brief snippets of all Bela Lugosi. I don't know. It just was a very weak film in my opinion. I would say Ghost of Frankenstein fits more with what you're saying. In a lot of ways, this is the Day of the Dead of this series. It is, and I know it's not a 10 out of 10 like I think Day of the Dead is, but it's initially it's not as well as received as the first two, which is very similar to what Day of the Dead is. I mean, a lot of people first see that movie and go, "Well, it's okay, but it's not that night and it's not dawn." A lot of people have that, But then again, and that's something with this film. I know some people that would say Day of the Dead is their favorite of those three, and I have seen people, including, funny enough, the angry video game nerd. I believe he said the Son of Frankenstein was his favorite of the three, and I believe, um, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe Mel Brooks said that this was the one he watched the most as a kid, or as a young man, I guess. So that's interesting. I don't know. I would say more day than land. Ghost of Frankenstein would be more the land of the dead of this series for sure, in my opinion. Hollywood has always been filled with money hungry people since the beginning. It's just the beginning. There was a few who actually cared. Yeah, I still think there are people that care. Like I think Tarantino really cares. I think a lot of the indie filmmakers, like guys like Bong Joon Ho. I think he's a guy that really really cares. But at the end of the day, it's there. Those guys are going to make quality, not quantity. Like there's not a Tarantino movie out every 6 months, and that's probably for the best, because he takes his time, and these movies come out where he takes his time and writes original scripts and has fun with it. And I think that that's a guy that really cares. But you're right. I mean, the majority, they don't care. They just want to make money, and that's fine. But I think it's good to give a quality product at the end of the day too. The thing is, back then they actually had people to stick up for the money hungry people. Now everybody fears for money hungry people, and yeah, that's I completely agree, because you know just what I was saying before with Jim Carrey. Like, why did you not stand up for him? If they were willing to pay you $7 million, somebody would have listened to you and said, "Hey, that's right. That is a fucking pay discrepancy. That's pretty disgusting that we're doing that to the second bill of the movie." But they did it anyway, and he didn't step up and go to the plate. And like you said, people are weak. I think that shows a lot of weakness for Jim Carrey. And I know that a lot of people would defend and probably say, "Oh, well, that's not any of his business what his co-star makes." I don't know, man. You make a movie called Dumb and Dumber. You make a movie called Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. You make a movie, any buddy movie where it's two people. You two are the stars together. There's not one that's more important than the other, in my opinion. And I think that even though I know one would probably draw more, and that is true, Jim Carrey would draw more. It's not that big of a difference. It's not a. I don't know if I'm still here. Okay, my Wi-Fi is acting up, so this is I'm probably going to wrap this up, and I'm sorry. Most people let the money and popularity go to their head, and then they start thinking they're everyone. They're not. No, you have to keep humbleness. I get that fame is the greatest thing in the world. If I could fame, maybe I could walk a mile in their shoes and come back and tell you. But at the end of the day, person came up to me and said, you let's say I had a twin brother, and somebody was like, "You just won the lottery. We're giving you 10 million. We're going to give your brother K." I'd be like, "Fuck you! Give my brother the same as me. We won the lottery together." But I don't know. It is what it is. Tarrant, Weinstein, Lynch, yes, those guys care, and you see that in their work, and I think that's why their work shines. Here's the thing: if I was Jim Carrey and I heard they were paying Jeff Daniels that money, I would sit there, take the 7 million, and give half of it to Jeff. Yeah, no, definitely. Just be like even if you don't want to go to bat for him, which I completely think he should have. Yeah, I give him that money, man. That's your baby together. That's a team effort, in my opinion. It's not Dumb and Dumber. That's does not agree terms don't want. That's only. Oh, on this con. Yeah, my Wi-Fi's all fucked up. I don't know if y'all can even still hear me. I don't know. I'm trying to click on that comment. That's the only if the lead producer does not agree to the terms. Um, got his pay. And I think it's nice that yeah, okay. So I have no, I can't even post a comment. So, all right, I guess we'll end the show here, guys. I'm sorry for the